We all have this incredibly rich, complex world living inside of our heads. But sometimes, let's be honest, it can feel like a pretty lonely place. Like we're filled with questions we think we're the only ones asking. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on those hidden struggles, using some expert insights to show just how connected we all really are. Let's dive in.
So, let me just ask you this. Do you ever get that feeling that you're just stuck? Kind of like you're in the waiting room of your own life, just waiting for some invisible permission slip that never, ever shows up? If you're nodding along, you are definitely not alone. It's a super common feeling.
And there's actually a name for this in psychology. It's called learned helplessness. And here's the kicker. It's not really about the barrier that's in front of you. It's about the internal habit of waiting. It's this pattern we learn that can stick around long after the original reason for waiting is totally gone.
This quote from Dr. T. Alexander Pudio just nails it. We are not blocked by gatekeepers as much as we are by habits of waiting. So that gatekeeper we're picturing, it's not some person out there. It's a habit in here, which, when you think about it, means the key to moving forward has probably been in our pocket the whole time.
Okay, so that feeling of being stuck, that's just one little part of the huge landscape of our inner worlds. Now, we're going to go a bit deeper into some of those private struggles that honestly so many of us face but pretty much never talk about.
First up, an old classic, the past. Oh yeah, you know what I'm talking about. That constant mental movie of mistakes we've made, those cringy moments, the things we just wish we could do over. It really can feel like a ghost of our former self is just following us around, and it will not leave us alone.
Dr. David Richo puts it perfectly here, but I want you to notice that tiny but super important phrase he uses, or think we made. Because, let's be real, the story we tell ourselves about our past is often so much harsher than what actually happened. It's a powerful narrative for sure, and a painful one.
But regret isn't only about what happened. Sometimes the deepest ache is for what never happened. It's that longing for the road not taken. Right? A kind of quiet grief for a life that we can imagine so vividly but just didn't get to live. And there's a perfect word for this exact feeling.
The Portuguese language has this absolutely beautiful and precise word for it, saudade. It captures both the sweetness of what was, or what could have been, and the ache of it being gone. It's not just sadness, it's this deep, almost poetic longing that is just so profoundly human.
So, from the regrets of the past, our minds love to swing right over to worrying about the future. You know that voice, right? That constant nagging little narrator going, but what if? What if this goes wrong? What if I totally mess it up? Ugh. Living with that mental soundtrack is just exhausting.
But check this out. Here's a really powerful reframe from Dr. Jeffrey Bernstein. What if that anxiety isn't actually a flaw? What if every single what if is just your brain's ancient, hardwired programming trying its best to protect you? The instinct isn't the problem. The problem is when that protective instinct gets stuck in overdrive.
Of course. These inner battles, they don't just stay neatly packed inside our own heads. Nope. They inevitably spill out and shape our relationships with other people. So let's take a look at how these very private feelings can become very public, shifting our focus from me to we.
So here's a really interesting paradox for you. In cultures that put a huge value on social harmony and connection, loneliness can actually become this massive hidden problem. There's so much pressure to keep up appearances that people can feel totally isolated. And the research suggests that a true sense of belonging, it isn't just about the people you're with. It's about feeling deeply connected to a place.
And then there's that sharp, biting pain of being left out. It is surprisingly intense, isn't it? Our brain doesn't really know the difference between a huge rejection and, being left out of a group chat. To our ancient brain, being kicked out of the tribe meant certain death, and it still treats social exclusion like a very, very real threat.
And this quote from Kristen Mikov is just so relatable, it hurts. It shows how these little social dramas can pop up absolutely anywhere, even in places where we're supposed to find peace and community. That feeling of being on the outside, yeah, it can throw you right back to the middle school cafeteria in a heartbeat.
This brings us to the people we're closest to. Think about this for a second. Why can some random feedback from a stranger just roll right off your back, but that exact same comment from your partner feels like a personal attack? Why does it hurt so much more when it comes from someone we love?
Well, the answer is all about our attachment style. Dr. Mark Travers explains that some of us just have a more sensitive attachment system. That means we're basically on high alert for any threat of disconnection.
So when a conflict comes up, our brain doesn't just hear criticism, it hears a threat to the entire relationship. And we get defensive because, on a primal level, it feels like a fight for survival.
All right, I know, exploring all of this can feel a little heavy. So the natural question is, what do we do about it? Well, the good news is that sometimes the most powerful tool we have is just a simple shift in how we look at things. Let's explore how we can find a way forward.
I'm sure you've heard the advice, stop saying I should. Stop shoulding all over yourself. The whole idea is that it's a word that's just loaded with guilt and pressure from other people. But is trying to get rid of it really the only answer?
Here's a brilliant alternative from Alex Snyder. What if the goal isn't to just banish the word from our vocabulary? What if instead we got curious about it? Ask, whose should is this anyway? Does it actually line up with my values? It's all about changing your relationship to the thought, not just trying to delete it.
And when it comes to the past, Dr. David Richo offers this really powerful two-step process. Okay, so step 1 is the active part, letting go of the regret, which is often just a story we're telling ourselves over and over. But, and this is the part we always try to skip, step 2 is to actually deal with the grief. You have to make space for the sadness of what was lost. You can't just power through it. You have to feel it to heal from it.
Wow. Okay, so we've journeyed from our most private inner struggles all the way to a path forward. To wrap this all up, I want to leave you with one final, really unifying idea that I think puts everything we've talked about into a beautiful perspective.
So you may have heard about this. There are about a dozen monks who are quietly just walking across the United States. And for some reason, this whole thing has absolutely exploded online. The question is, why? Why are we so captivated by this simple, quiet act? And when I say it's exploded, I'm not kidding. We're talking millions of people following their journey. In our noisy, chaotic, and often really divided world, what is it about this quiet pilgrimage that has struck such a deep chord with so many of us?
And this quote from Dr. Emma Sapella, I think, gives us the answer. Their quiet, humble act is like a mirror. It's showing us that all those inner struggles we've just talked about, the regrets, the anxieties, the search for connection, they aren't just bugs in our personal software. They are the core features of our shared human experience. That quiet walk reminds us that no matter how lonely our inner world might feel, we are all on this path together.